get cold easily, so I have my jacket. But I feel like once I start talking, then I'm gonna get like
Moving
warm
around.
Yeah.
Because I didn't start feeling it until everything got quiet.
I'm really sorry that this thing doesn't work. But everybody see my drink.
Do you have a umbrella on
I
it?
do. Ooh, I'll come in. No, I'll grab some chocolate while
Bring some pretzels over.
Yeah, that would be good.
We'll bring the whole thing.
Yeah, just bring all of them.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, yum.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Miss Vanessa.
Yes.
It is. It's recording.
Oh, it is. Okay, awesome.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I know we've kind of met, some briefly, some new, and some older. So my name is Vanessa Carmen Peralta Mitchell. I'm the owner of VC PM Inc. Oh, I thought that was somebody coming.
No, it's my kid's mouth.
Oh, awesome. So Jamie invited me here tonight, and not just tonight, you know, we're friends. So thank you, first of all, for thinking of me in this way, where I can share a little bit about my story. My story is nothing extraordinary, so don't think that you're going to be taken aback or anything like that, but my story is my own. Just like your story is your own, right? So Jamie has witnessed a lot of my story because we've known each other for how long again?
10 years?
Probably. Yeah. It's like weird. I didn't even realize how long it's been.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been 10 years.
It's been a
So
long time.
I feel, if I can give you a quick analogy, and bear with me, this is very unpolished, right? I'm talking to you as if I'm talking for the first time about my life because I've never really had this opportunity to share in this way. But in knowing me the past 10 years, it's been a very pivotal time because I give this analogy. So when I met my husband, right, it was back in the day when you would have like portable CD players. That's how old it was, right? And he would make me soundtracks off of like LimeWire or something. And one of the soundtracks he put on there was PYT. Mind you, I grew up in a household though that played bachata and salsa and like classicals from Ecuador and stuff like that. And I knew Michael Jackson songs, but I had never heard PYT before. So when he put PYT on, I was like blown away. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I love this song, this is a jam. And he would always laugh at me because he's like, bae, he's like, why do you listen to the song? Like, and it's like you heard it, like every time you hear it, it's like the first time you ever heard it. Mind you, this song probably came out like, you know, in the 70s or something. It's all good.
80s.
80s, thank you, the 80s. But here I am in whatever year the portable Walkmans came out, all like just still jamming to it. So that's the analogy I use because I feel like in the last 10 years since we've known each other, I've just found my voice. And it's like a new beat that I'm just like so happy to pump, you know, and like still like kind of like find my groove in it. So that's the analogy I always think about. But to start with, I'm gonna start where I am today and then kind of like talk about how I got there. And Jamie felt that this was appropriate because everyone here tonight is working on your vision board, right? Why work on that September? I have realized that there's no deadline or timeline for you to step into your greatness. So who cares it's September? It could be January. It could be tomorrow, next year. There's no timeline. So whatever you put on this board is meant for you to put on it tonight. So right now, I'm the owner of VCPM Inc. I have a Game Changers program. Let me tell you a little bit about VCPM Inc. So it's within the running industry. And the way that I describe it is that it's dedicated to use the power of the pavement to empower women to live a life without limits. Now, more specifically, with my company, I have a Game Changers program. And the idea there is to bring in more women of color to be certified run coaches. I'm a run coach. And what I want to do is redefine who people see as experts and leaders in the running space. And so that's my big vision. And this year, I'm proud to say that I have a presenting sponsor. And if anyone here knows Brooks is on board with my company.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
Say what they said to you. I think this is so cool. I always want to say it.
What part?
When you had the meeting and they were like, we want to.
Oh, okay. Brooks essentially said to me that they're invested in seeing my success. And I think, I love that because I just celebrated 2 years of being in business, okay? And so Brooks is not waiting for down the road where I'm going to end up. they see the impact we're making right now. I'm a small business, but with big impact, is what I always say. And so they're invested in us right now. So that's where I am right now, right? It's a good time. It's stressful. I always say there's so much work that we did, and there's so much work ahead. And in the middle there, like I always suggest people to celebrate. So I've tried to do my best to do that. But let me start way back when, and I have couple little notes. So you stop me if there's a time limit. So I definitely never guessed that I would have started there. I'm by trade not a runner. There was no track team in my high school, no track team in my college. Drexel. So I didn't come from running, right? But I will say what started was even before that. Let me take a step back even before that. So my parents came to this country from Ecuador, and I found that the story that they carried is not my story, but is a piece of it, and now I can navigate and narrate my own, right? But my mom came here not knowing the language, right? And my father owned his own business. We have a lot of brothers and sisters. I'm one of the youngest, if not the youngest girl. And I found myself being a voice for my mom a lot. So I remember countless times we would be somewhere and my mom would kind of like nudge me, because the person's talking to her in English and she understands, but she was not intimidated. She was embarrassed to talk English, right? Even though she could, but she just would give me this like, no, you talk, and then I would talk. But this wasn't anything. Well, this was anything from like McDonald's to like the guy at the bank, So it was a lot of responsibility. I gotta get those fries right, and I better know where the check needs to be deposited,
Yeah.
So that was the first, I guess, experience of being someone's voice. You know what I mean? Back then. And I really didn't find my own until I started running. And so I didn't start running until after our first child was born. So he is now 17. So I've been running for 17 years. But what really changed everything was I was at home. I remember my mom was home too, and I was watching a documentary on HBO. It's called Women in Sports, I believe.
Oh yes.
Okay, so hopefully we're talking about the same one, but this was a documentary about all different industries, right? It wasn't just about running. It was, I don't know, it could have been about like, definitely running and like basketball or soccer, all these different sports. And it was just crazy to me that women didn't have the same rights as men. And it really wasn't that long ago. It was like the 70s, So I'm like, oh my goodness, like, and the way that they just dove into each person's story and like how much they had to fight for something that I took for granted, which is like participating in sports. I was so moved by that documentary that I was like, that's it. Today is the day that I'm gonna pay homage to all these trailblazers. And even though I played basketball and soccer in high school, a little bit college, soccer only, but I wasn't gonna join the WNBA, right? At like 20 something. So I thought I'm gonna run a marathon. Never ran a mile. I had no track team, no nothing. I had no experience, no ties. Knew no one in my family, my friends, my community. Nobody ran. It wasn't a thing. Not back then. Not 17 years ago. Actually, even more than that. When I got that idea. So, but that was the day that seed was planted, right? That I'm gonna do that. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna do that. So this is like a tip for your sport. You don't need to know how you're gonna do something. Just know that there's something out there that you can do. And at that point, the fact that you can think that you can do it, you're already capable of doing it, right? So I'm gonna run a marathon. Never ran to the corner, never ran around the block, never ran a mile, but that's what I'm going to do. That took me a long time to accomplish that goal. I finally did, maybe tiptoe related to that point, but I want to say that I would say that running wasn't easy for me, you know what I mean? I didn't just get up and run. And finally, when I did get my groove into running, I remember I was using it as a celebration time, and I was pregnant with a second child, so I wanted to tell my friend, and so we ran this 5K together. Never ran a 5K together. This is a lifelong friend. I've literally known her since I was in my mother's womb, because she's 9 months older than me, right?
Yeah.
So we ran our first 5K together, and we crossed the finish line, and I had told her, I was like, well, there's 3 of us here celebrating. And she was like, what? Like, you're pregnant again? You know, like, so I was so excited, you know, to share that moment with her. And lo and behold, like, I actually had a miscarriage. And it was one of the most, like, I can talk about it so much better now, but it still, like, stings a little bit. But take a breath.
I will get you a napkin.
Okay. But I would say it was.
Right here.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think in that moment, I didn't blame running, but I took a break from it, and it took me maybe 2 years or so to come back to loving something that I had a passion for. But I didn't know it at the time that it had become a part of me. And I think sometimes it's okay to step away from the things that become a part of you, because it allows you to realize that something brings you balance, that something makes you strive, that something allows you to change because it does challenge you. And you choose that challenge with running. You know, no one tells you to go out there and run half a marathon. You choose it. That was my choice. Having a miscarriage wasn't. And it took me some time to differentiate the two. But I kept running. So kind of fast forward a little bit more, I still had that New York Marathon. That was that day with that documentary. I was like, I'm gonna run the New York Marathon because I'm from North Jersey. New York is 20 minutes away. I was finding me a dancing in a club in New York. I moved to Philly because we had our first child, and I changed my goal. I was like, all right. I literally wrote out my goals, you know, and it's a New York Marathon. I just crossed out New York and I put Philly. Another point: it's okay to change your goal. Don't think that you didn't achieve something. You're just coming at it from another angle.
Right.
So the first marathon I ever did was the Philadelphia Marathon. But I still had that seed that planted, you know, I wanted to do New York so bad. So we had our first child, had a miscarriage, second one. But I got pregnant again. And so lo and behold, the year I got pregnant with our second child, I got accepted into the New York City Marathon. And I had not made it the first year.
You have to qualify for that.
Well, it's a lottery.
Okay.
And so I didn't get in the first year, right? Then I got in, found out I was pregnant, so then I had to defer. My son was born in, our oldest is a son, our second is a son. He was born in March. The marathon was in November. So I had a C-section, right? The second C-section. So you need a little bit of time to recuperate, and then you have only but so much month. I like to train at least 4 months before a marathon. It's 26.2 miles, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So my turnaround was like this, you know? I had to train. I had to manage a full-time job and 2 kids, and the craziness. I don't gotta tell anybody, you know. If you don't know, I'm sure you've heard stories, you know. It's a lot. So when it came to marathon, like the day before the marathon, or maybe 2 days before, all of a sudden there was like this huge storm happening everywhere, all up and down the Northeast. That was the year with Superstorm Sandy, right? And New York Marathon had never been canceled. How dare they? You know what I mean? Like, never. Like, New York Marathon's untouchable, right? The creme de la creme or whatever. But that year, they waited. You know, they waited. They thought the storm would hold off. Let me tell you, ladies, I waited too. I had to run 3 miles on one of my last runs. It was storming so bad outside that in my house, my current house, I literally, the way it's connected, it's a townhome. It's connected from like the living room to the doorway, like the hallway, the kitchen, like the little dining room, the kitchen, hallway, living room. I ran 3 miles in my house.
Oh my
I ran
God.
3 miles in my house because I was that much dedicated and focused to my goal. Superstorm Sandy's not gonna stop me. Like I'm here achieving a goal I had set like who knows how long ago, you know? I ran 3 miles, I was set, I was ready, I was prepared, and they canceled it. They canceled it last minute. And rightfully so. I have no problem with the fact that they canceled it, but the fact that like here I am like all these years later, implanted with the seed of you know, paying homage to all these trailblazers, having married, had a child, first a child, then got married, then a miscarriage, you know, like all these things, and like here was my comeback, and it was taken away from me. And I was remember being in the shower, crying, and my husband coming home, and he's like, "Babe," he's like, he knew that they canceled it. I was like, "Yeah," it's like, I can't, right now. And so I did eventually run it the next year. Everything got deferred, so it took me 3 times, right? Because I got in, was pregnant, wanted to run it. Superstorm Sandy happened, and then the third time that I was in, I got in for real. But it was November 3rd, 2013, I want to say, and it was ended up being my third marathon. And it was my third time trying to get into the race. And someone told me something about the number 3 and like the way it's supposed to be, like it's meant to be or something like that.
Third time's a charm.
What'd you say?
Third time's a charm.
And third time's the charm. So there we go. So it was kind of like, it was like meant to be. And I'll say a quick story about that really quick. And it's not even a story, but I remember back then you had a device, not a device, your bib. Every time you would cross something, you had a potential, if a family member left a message, that you could see it on the big screen, right? So there, cool. And yeah, it's really cool because there's thousands of, like 50,000 runners. So I remember like close to mile 21, I'm crossing, and it beeps and all that, and on the big screen as you're running, I see my husband. He's like, "Yeah, babe, like, go get him, blah, blah." I'm like dying about 21, you know what I mean? Who isn't dying about 21? I'm like, "That's my husband." Like, so it's like all these things that felt like it was meant to be the way it's supposed to be. And for me, that was like the race of a lifetime that I had achieved. So I wanted to kind of, yeah, let me see. I wanted to read some things too. So I journal a lot. So I wanted to read some things that I thought might be helpful. I think this comes later though. Let me see here. So I'm gonna fast forward a bit because I don't want to take up too much time. So I'm gonna fast forward a lot. And this is like the unpolished part, right? Because I want to make sure you guys have enough time to do what you need to do. But being a business owner really has enabled me to understand and look back in terms of how my why is intertwined with everything that I do, right? So, I look back and I think about me being that voice for my mom, right? Are you kids again?
Yeah, I don't know. They're interacting. Hopefully it's nice.
Hopefully.
Great day.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So me looking back and thinking about being that voice for my mom, right? And then me finding my voice through running, I realized now I'm able to utilize that voice for others.
Yeah.
And for me, that's my common thread, right? I think about everything I've done, like whether it's with an organization, whether it's with someone else, for a family member, the things that I believe in, they represent a voice. And to me, like, that's my why, is to amplify the voices. At first it was my mom, now at one point it was my own, and now it's for others. So that's my common thread. And like, that's something Jamie also wanted me to talk about, is like understanding what your why is. And I know you've probably heard this a lot, but I think if you look at like the things that you love to do voluntarily, I don't mean volunteer as in, that you volunteer your time, but think about the things that bring you joy. And we underestimate joy so much. Joy is the most important factor, I believe. The things that bring you joy really light you up. So think about the things in your life that you do without someone telling you, that you would do for however long without someone telling you that you're gonna get something from it, right? And everything in your life, and don't think about like little tasks, think about the bigger things, right? And then start to realize, like, well, what's the common connection here? Like for me, the voice was like my common connection, right? Think about like, what is the common theme, and you'll start to realize like how they thread all together. And understanding why you do certain things and why they're important to you makes that like your ultimate goal, and it makes it that much easier to get there, because you are going to have those ups and downs, but knowing your why will keep you going no matter what. So I'll bring up my business a little bit because I wanted to mention one story and then I'm gonna read something. So my mom, right? I grew up with my dad owning his own business. I never wanted to own my own business. Like never ever wanted to own my own business. Like everyone in my family worked with my father. Like brothers, sisters, boyfriends, girlfriends, people that just came here, like we would say, off the boat. You know what I mean? Like I was the only one that never worked with my father, which was a conscious effort because I saw how family and business intermixed, and I didn't want that for myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I will tell you to this day, I'm the only one that owns my own business out of all my brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So, but I don't necessarily give that props to my dad. You know what I mean? Like, and no against nothing against him, but my mom, who helped my father build his business, but eventually stayed at home to raise us, I give all my credit to her. And it was this moment. So my mom was going through something real um, disheartening, right? As a mother, and she shared that with me in a very candid conversation, and she was in tears because she had realized that she had given so much to us, and not in a bad way, not in a regretful way, but in a moment of realization.
Mhm.
She realized that she came to this country, she wanted to finish her studies, she wanted to fulfill dreams and aspirations, and here we are. This wasn't that long ago. So, I mean, whew, I don't know, maybe 40 years, 50 years later for her, that she's realizing that she never got to fulfill those dreams. She never got to fulfill those goals. And she's crying and she's telling me this, and I'm crying. But I think it was not just seeing like this most courageous woman that I know share such vulnerability. It was like she was pouring into me, right? All her dreams, all her aspirations, all her goals to pass me this baton, that I like to say, this baton of empowerment to let me know that I don't have to wait for my dreams. I don't have to wait to fulfill my aspirations. I can do them right now. And in that moment, I didn't know she was telling me that. I didn't sit there as like, oh, I'm gonna start my own business. Like that came so after the fact. But I can look back and know that it was in that moment that it changed me. So like another tip of advice, like whatever you're going through, because we all go through some crazy stuff. Like you might not know it in this moment, but I promise you, you're gonna look back and be like, that was the moment that made me who I am. That was the moment that made me go left when I thought I was gonna go right. And I can look back and honestly say, like, that was the moment that my mom empowered me to have this voice that I use for other people. You know what I mean? And I share that story with her, and I just love her so much. Both my parents are still around, so I definitely have much gratitude for all the work that they have just to come here and build this family and their dreams through us. But some of the stuff I wanted to share with y'all is it's not easy being a business owner, right? I can say like, we have Brooks and we have this, that, but it ain't easy. But I love it. It does bring me joy. I love hearing from our coaches how the ripple effect of impact in our communities, in the industry, that to me is my North Star. But there have been moments where they aren't so easy. And I'm going to share one here because I remember at one point really early in my company, what I do is pretty unique in the sense of I have a program that provides funding so they can be coaches, provides mentorship because I don't want to leave them hanging, right? So they have a fellow woman of color who is their mentor, and then they have a business strategist because you can get certified at anything and you are so excited until you get that certification and then you're like, what am I going to do with it now? Yeah. So those are the three components, and it felt very unique because it was kind of organically created with my coach's help. But lo and behold, there was a new gig in town, and this new gig was funded and founded by a really big name in the industry. I mean, huge name in the industry. Everybody knows him. I was reading his book at the time that I found out that he came out with this program. And I'm like, dang, like, I felt so small. I felt like here is this guy, white man, first of all, that's promoting like people of color coaches type thing. And dang, man, like, he has the funding, he has the name, like, and I was just starting to pitch to different companies, like, and he probably didn't even know me, right? But I allowed him, right, to make me feel this little. So this is something I wrote that day. I said, I'm gonna start somewhere around here though. Okay, overall, it made me feel small among giants. It made me feel insignificant in a sea of those with more. On the way back from Catalina's ballet around 7:30 p.m., she said, "Mom, repeat after me. What's in the sauce?" So I repeat, "What's in the sauce?" She's like, "Who's in the sauce?" Y'all probably know this commercial. I said, "Who's in the sauce?" She goes, "I am the sauce." I was like, I am the sauce. It reminded me that I'm the secret ingredient in all I do. I am the sauce. I said, "Thank you, baby." After dinner, around 9:45 p.m., that's the truth because we eating late. I sat at the steps to go upstairs, feeling pretty tired and still trying to internally shake off my feelings. Des, who's our younger son, said, "Mom, we're lucky to be alive." I thought it was a Hamilton reference, so I said, "Look around, look around." He smiled and said, "That's not what I meant." He genuinely meant that we're all lucky to be alive right now because anything can happen to stop that. And this is his example. He said like a bomb could go off all of a sudden. He went like extreme, right? So any second we're alive, we've beaten the odds. He said we're all lucky and privileged to have this life. I hugged him and told him how much I needed that. He said, "If I ever feel down, just think of how lucky I am." I wrote, "God, if that isn't a message, I don't know what is." I said, "Thank you for sending it through my children. It's okay to be in my feelings as long as I don't stay there. I am capable of impact. I'm going to figure this out. I will not give my power to anyone or anything other than my life and my family. I am ready to take on Goliath. I am power. I am strong. I am blessed. I am purpose driven. I am VCPM, Vanessa, La Jefa. I am the people I serve. I am giving of my talents to fulfill exactly what I was created to do on this earth with my one and only life. I am sauce. I am lucky to be alive right now. Abundance is within me." And so that's what I wrote that day.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And thank you. This is like therapy. And I just wanted to read one more thing before I go. I will say that okay. So I'm moving around, right? And this is the last like story I will share because I'm trying to look at the time. Yeah, I've been talking a lot. All right. One day this will all be nice packaged, so y'all getting like the real raw version. So I appreciate it. But being a business owner, I came across an opportunity where I was invited to a retreat for women leaders out in California. And when I mean women leaders, I'm talking about everyone got their name tag on, and mine says Vanessa VCPM Inc. with like X, Y, and Z from Nike, and ABC from New Balance, and D, E, and F from Saucony, like all these names. And here I come with my Game Changers program, and the difference between then and that moment was I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a David. I felt like I stick out, and I'm gonna show you why. So there came a moment during that retreat where we were able to get on the mic. And the idea there was International Women's Day. We were going to shout out another woman who we, want to give kudos to. And lo and behold, someone gave me a shout out. and it was someone that I consider a mentor. And she got on the mic, and she was one of the ones actually organizing the event, so everyone knows her. Like, she's a name, you know? So she got on the mic in front of 115 industry leading women, and she said my name. And she said, if you don't know Vanessa, you better get to know her. And she described my business, and she completely botched what I do. But it wasn't her responsibility to speak on my behalf. But she took it upon herself to say my name, and that was exactly what she needed to do. I was already going to go on the mic because I had told myself I wanted to give her props, and she beat me to it, and I wanted to give another woman props. And a side note, I find that there's so much strength and power when we can shine a light on each other. So don't feel that anyone is competition because there's only one you.
Right.
So don't feel afraid to shine that light, even a ring light. So I got on that mic, and since she botched what I do, what she did was allow me in a very authentic, nice way, you know. I said what I do. I said who I am. And I gave her props because she rightfully deserved it. And the whole room heard my voice that day. Let me tell you, after that moment, the brand started calling me. All right? And Brooks was one of them. But that night, I went back to my room because, you know, there was like a little like after party thing, and the organizers hotel, and everyone was like dancing and drinking. Like the facilitator, who was all like this the whole time, she was like trying to like dance next to me. I was like, okay, like we're just chilling now. But they gave me so much like props, you know what I mean, and asking me questions and all this stuff, and I was like, whoa, like I wasn't presenting, I was just talking about what we do, you know what I mean? But I went back to my room, and I wrote this. So I said, so it's at 12:53 a.m.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's late. These ladies all had a party.
Right.
I said, breathe. Just breathe. Tip of the iceberg, someone said. I have good news, someone said. New Balance wants to talk. Let's connect, this lady from Nike said. You command the room, some other person said. I took a chance and bet on myself today. I showed up for who I am, what I'm doing, and what I represent. I made my voice heard. What's my leadership style? Someone asked. I said I never really thought about it. I lead with passion. Passion to show up for myself and to show up for others before and after me. I stood up in front of 115 women industry leaders and wanted to recognize two women, one was named Kathy, for who she is and what she challenged and inspires me to be, and the other one's named Martha, for making time to make a difference and sharing her insight and connections with me. Multiple people have said what I'm doing is amazing. So many opportunities are about to come my way.